So hello everyone, this is Christina, the Black Swan Sibyl, greeting you in the love and the light of the one infinite creator. Welcome to our Vibe Tribe, where we are gathering together for the purpose of crystallizing unity consciousness. Where two or more are gathered in unity, there is a crystallized or a Christ consciousness, and that is what we are embodying on this planet. So today I'm excited to introduce to you Lindsay Banks, intuitive and psychic medium, author of A Gentle Hug for the Soul, and more recently, Awaken Your Soul. So welcome, Lindsay.
Thank you so much, Christina. I think that is one of the most beautiful welcomes and introductions I've had yet. So thank you very much for that. It's lovely, lovely words.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'm so excited. So tell us, who are you? Where did you come from? What's your story? I'm going to get into the questions, but maybe you could just tell us what your intro is.
Okay, so my name is Lindsay. I struggle with labels and putting a label on myself because I find that through this spiritual journey, it's like you're constantly evolving, and the person or the label you gave yourself 6 months ago isn't who you are now. So I'm from Newcastle originally in England, and I live just outside of York now. I'm a single mom with 2 small children, and basically my spiritual awakening started back in 2016. So on my 36th birthday, my friend Lisa passed away from cancer, and that sort of was, for me, if you think about like the traditional tarot card, that was my tower moment where, you know, everything sort of came crashing down. You know, I went to uni and I went and got a degree because that's what I thought I was meant to do. So I got a degree in international business, went to work for a retailer for 8 years, and really struggled with stress. I'd never known stress until I got this job working for a retailer, working my way up, you know, the management ladder. And then I started needing tools to manage the stress and this environment I got into. So I first heard of Reiki back in 2002, and then when I was working for the retailer, it came back into my mind. You know how things just pop into your mind, and I thought, this is something I need. So I went and had a Reiki session, and at the time I didn't feel anything because I was just so not connected to myself, and I thought I've wasted my money. You know, it didn't work basically. But I decided something drew me back, so I went to learn Reiki. So I did the level 1, level 2, the master and teacher, and a lot of the tools that I learned from that really stood me in good stead for when my friend passed. And I'd also sort of learned in the meantime, before she passed, about like crystals and, you know, speaking with spirits. So I had like a basic understanding of all these spiritual tools in theory, but I've never had to put them really into practice until she came to pass. So that's sort of where my awakening or my spiritual journey, I feel, started.
Mm-hmm. What beliefs were you raised with?
So my mum and dad, they didn't really have very strict religious beliefs. I remember my mum taking us to Sunday school, you know, in the church down the road. But I remember one day just deciding that I didn't want to go, and I went and hid behind a water butt in the garden. And after that, we never went back. I must have been about 8.
Uh-huh.
8 years old. But yeah, they didn't really adhere to any particular religious beliefs. My grandma had a copy of the Bible, and she gave me one when I was 12. And I remember trying to read the Bible, but I just couldn't. So yeah, I suppose the beliefs and the values that I grew up with were more around sort of like, you know, sticking together, you know, with my sister, and it was more values based, really.
Yeah, I understand that. So what do you believe now about the nature of reality?
So it's completely different. So I think what the biggest thing for me has been on this journey is learning that I can create my reality. So it's not about being told, right, well, you need to do this, this, and this, and then you die, or, you know, or your pension comes out of this age. It's like, actually, I can create and manifest the life that I want, which is really powerful. And some of the manifestations that I've been able to create, once I've learned that, I'm just like, it blows your mind. Do you know what I mean? And then once you've done it once, you're like, oh my days, you know, what else can I create? And it's sort of like, it really sort of, yeah, it changes the way you look at the world and the way that you sort of see your place in it, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. And, you know, I'm thinking about the next question that I have for you, which is about how we came to be here, just, you know, generally how we came to be here. You know, what do you think about?
Well,
Yeah.
when I was 18, right, when I was still at school, we did a I don't know, like a lesson called General Studies, and it was like a half an A level, so it was a few extra points for getting into uni. And there was a debate one day about, you know, how did the world begin? Was it Darwinism or was it Big Bang Theory? You know, and there was only these two like thoughts basically. And I was sat there and I was like, I don't believe any of this. So I stuck my hand up and the teacher was like, so what do you think? I said, I actually feel like we're part of a big experiment for some aliens. And yeah, it's not Darwinism and it's not Big Bang. And there was just like this moment of silence across the whole classroom before everyone just started absolutely killing themselves laughing. And I was like, I didn't see anything wrong with that, because I was like, I was just speaking what I knew to be true. And then I didn't really mention that again for a long time and sort of forgot about it. But yeah, you know, I feel like we're all, you know, within our physical body, this physical body is just a vehicle for us on planet Earth. So we are all souls, and we all choose to come into this body, to come into the family that, you know, you've chosen before you're here, to fulfill your contracts, to learn your lessons, etc. And then when your life, your physical body is finished with, your soul carries on and goes wherever else it goes, returns to source and etc. So
Do it
I
all
think,
over again. When you said source, something knocked in my kitchen.
really.
I love that. I love those. Thanks.
Yeah, and I think through some of the work that I've done, like in terms of mediumship, I've been told like not so much where people go, but the process once you've passed as well. So what spirits have shown me is that when they pass, they're never alone, which is, I find, really comforting. You know, there's always family members around to guide them through that tunnel. And then when they get to source, it's like, and this was one of my friends who passed told me, he said, it's like you're taken into this big movie theater and there's just you and one of the guide or whoever this person is, and you sit and you watch your life and you review it and you see all the people in it and the reasons that they were in it and what part they played, etc. And like, it was so lovely, because he'd said to me when I was like connecting with him, he said, you know, and I saw you in my life movie, Lindsay, and, you know, I'm so grateful for like you being there and part of it. And I was just like, you know, when it blows your mind a little bit, but to know that you sort of, you review your own life afterwards, see whether you've learned the lessons you were meant to learn and whether you fulfilled your contract, etc. And I think then it's like, right, do I need to go back again, or is that it?
Right. And that's a comforting thought for people who are just starting to embrace the possibility of things not being a part of a rigid thought and belief system, that we, you know, that we are not alone. You know, some people really, really stress about what happens after you die, you know. And, you know, that's a big thing that, you know, if people can just feel that comfort, maybe they can thinking about other possibilities, you know, of what happens, you know. I mean, yeah, there's lots of stories about, you know, people who had near-death experiences and have gone to hell, you know, which is, it's a real place unique to each individual, but you can always come out of it, you know. Have you seen the movie Astral City?
No.
That's an interesting movie. I'll send you a link. I'll put it in the description box of our video too. It's a pretty good, interesting movie. It's channeled material made into a movie. So what do you believe about the nature of consciousness? I guess we kind of touched on that, you know, but.
So I think there are different levels of consciousness, and I think especially like this year, seeing the difference. So there's the third dimension of consciousness, which is very much, you know, that rigid structure, where it's like, this is what you have to do, or what you're being told to do, where you're not connected to yourself, you're not connected to your soul, your inner knowing, etc. And then the 4D bit, I sort of describe that as a bit like no man's land, you know, where you're beginning to sort of like ascend to the next dimension. But there's this time period where you're like, I don't know what's going on. Do you know what I mean? I feel lost, and it's a bit sort of dark night of the soulish, and you're just like, what's going on? And then for me, it's like getting towards this 5th dimension is tapping back into who you are as a soul, knowing your inner purpose, just having that knowing about what is going on in the world, and having sort of, I suppose, having not so much freedom, but knowing that you can create your reality, rather than being told this is your reality. And I suppose finding your power as well again.
I think the creators of this one have done a really good job in preventing us from and keeping us, you know, if there's an award to be given, good job. I mean, they really, really got us to believe that this is real.
Exactly.
I mean, once you wake up and realize it's not, it's you can't go back.
No, I know. It's like, for some people who still don't get it, I just keep saying, just go and watch the Truman Show.
Yeah.
Because I keep, in my mind, I'm just waiting for like a big voice to come, you know, from above, like a booming voice, and be like, right, end of the scene, or something like that.
Or camera to fall. Yeah. So how did you get from your old beliefs to your new ones? What kind of awakening did you experience?
So I always say my awakening is a bit like which one's the tortoise, from the tortoise and the hare. And it's been very slow and gradual, which has helped, I feel. And I haven't tried to fast track it. Do you know what I mean? I haven't tried to bypass anything. I'm just like, right, this is what's going on, etc. And I think, I think just practice and mindfulness has really helped with that sort of process, because when you start to move away from, like you said, you know, having the job and having security, having to let go and surrendering, there is this sort of like, oh my God, your sort of your logical brain is saying, you need to get a job, you need to get this, you need to do that. Whereas like the intuitive side is going, no, you're not working for anyone else, that's not your purpose, you need to keep being self-employed, you know. So I think like when I set up my business, when I was going through my divorce, there were points, especially in the first year, where I was like, what the frig am I doing? You know, I've got no idea about business. I've got no idea that, you know, it's not bringing me like a regular income. I was like, sometimes like it's brilliant. Sometimes I'm like, I should just go and get a job. And I think when you're in that space where your mind, your two brains are sort of battling against each other, that's the time then when it's like, right, I just need to meditate or go out for a walk. Yeah. And just really sort of tune back into yourself and about where you're meant to be going.
A lot of wisdom in everything you just said, especially not rushing. You can't rush an awakening. You just can't. No. And plus, you know, we're all participating in this together. So, you know, if I might be done, but my partners, my soulmates aren't done. So that means I'm not really done either, right? Because
exactly, yeah.
So, you know, pushing and sweating to the finish line doesn't really, that's part of the old paradigm.
No. Yeah, exactly. And the way that I see it in terms of like with everyone's awakening, it's like we're all stood and we're all holding a rope with different knots on it. Yeah. And basically as the person in front, as the person next to you shifts along, yeah, it's like they hold out, they're reaching out their hand and saying, come on, you're ready, you can move up now. And then you're reaching back and doing the same. So whatever we're learning through this spiritual awakening, we can then share those tools with others who are where we were maybe 6 months ago or a year ago, etc.
Yeah, agreed. So how did your new beliefs affect your life?
I think it changes, rather than sort of like, you know, when there's a challenge that comes up or an obstacle, rather than getting angry about it, rather than trying to resist changes, I've found that when something's coming up, I've become more fluid-like, if that makes sense, and approached it more from a different sort of point of view. So a year after I'd moved out of my marital home, the lease was up on my house. It was a 12-month lease. And basically, I really struggled finding another place because I'd gone to various houses and the landlords were like, and they didn't say this outright, but I knew I was a single mom and my business hadn't been going for 3 years. To them, I was probably like a financial liability. And my moving day was coming up and I'd booked the removal guys the week before and they're like, where we're going? I was like, either a house or storage, but I was like, I don't know yet.
Yeah.
And I was working with the moon. So like one of my new moon intentions was like, I find a beautiful house to live in with my children. I was manifesting. I had a house on a vision board. I wrote a list of what I wanted from the house. And like 3 days before I was about to be sort of like, I had to move out, I came to see a house and I was just like, right, it's perfect. It's got the number of bedrooms, it's got a garden. Yeah, ideal. And it was less than the price of rent that I was paying in my other home. So I was just like, yeah, this is it. So thankfully, do you know what I mean? I was like, the universe provided. So
it does. And it doesn't, we can't experience that if we're hanging on. Right.
No,
If you want to receive, you have to be open to receive. But if you're like so like 9 of swords, then you're going to manifest that.
Exactly.
That
And trusting as well, yeah, having it's like putting this like inane trust in the universe that they've got your back and then they don't want to see you in a position where you're not meant to be.
Yeah. That's really beautiful and powerful. That's that statement, just very empowering. So do you have psychic experiences and when did you begin having them?
Yeah, so I think when I was younger, I used to hear a lot of stuff in my house. And I was always like jumping into my mum and dad's bed. I was like, I'm so scared, there's something in the house. Do you know what I mean? But it wasn't until, I suppose, I'd always been interested in ghosts and ghost stories. Mm-hmm. And then I did like a couple of, where you go and have a haunted experience in a building. So I heard noises and I'd been watching Most Haunted and things like that. And then I saw my own I had my own experiences when I was with my ex-husband in his first house. And the house was so haunted. There was like, the first time I stayed there, the door was rattling. There was voices and I actually saw like a shadow figure appear one day. And I sort of like, as I did like it sort of came towards me and then disappeared. And then I would suffer, when I moved up to York, I slept with the light on the first night I was there because I could hear someone running up and down the stairs. Mm-hmm. And it was a friend of mine who tuned in and she said, oh, it's the spirit of a little girl. And then, so I had these like small experiences. And it wasn't until I started going to the spiritualist church a couple of years ago with a friend to support him because he'd been told he could be a medium that I was like, oh, I can do this as well. And learning the difference between being a medium and psychic as well. And I was just like, the sort of the potential just really started to open up, I think, from going there. Because I was like, I can speak to spirits. And then William Shakespeare came through, so I channeled William Shakespeare and I was just like, this is crazy, but I'm gonna go with it. And then I was reading angel cards for people, and then I started doing the tarot cards for them, and they were just like, people would come back and go, everything you said just made sense. It made sense. And then through the healing, I started tapping into people's past lives as well. And then the Akashic records came. And so it's like, I can see along a person's timeline, I suppose, from where they started. And then as I was doing more past lives, I was then starting to see where they were between past lives. And if they were a spirit guide for someone else, or if they were galaxy hopping, etc. And I think just the more that you practice and the more you open yourself up, the more that you're sort of given.
Yeah, I agree. So how did these abilities change your life?
So they've helped me with like my own sort of like just decision making, I suppose, and guiding me. Honestly, the stuff that I've been able to like do because of it. So I'm following on from moving out and the death of my friend, I wrote a book, which was a gentle hug for the soul. And I knew that I needed to write down these really basic tools that would help anyone through a stressful situation. So it includes like the gratitude and mindfulness and a bit on meditation, a bit on death, etc. And then from that, I was guided to a lady on Twitter, and I was like, she was reviewing books live. So I was like, would you like a copy of my book that you can review? She was like, yes, please. So I sent one over. She reviewed it. She then said, can we have this a Skype call? Yeah, yeah. Can you please write a chapter for a book that I'm putting together called Women Are Roses? I said, oh yeah, I'd love to. Right, do you have a passport? Would you like to come to America? And just the week before, I'd put out on Facebook and went, I really feel like going to America, but I don't really know where, and I've never been. And I'd had New York on my vision board for like a year and a bit. So when she invited me, I was like, I can't turn this down. And, you know, the way the universe works is it will move the obstacles out of the way. So I didn't really want to go and say to my ex-husband, you know, can you have the children for these weeks? But the next day he messaged me and said, oh, I'm planning on taking the children away for 2 weeks. These are the dates. And it was the exact dates with the dates she wanted me to go to America. And I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And then I think when you start to follow that path of least resistance, it just, everything else falls into place. So I just happened to watch an Abraham Hicks video before I went, and the date and the place came up, and it said May the 17th, 2017, Denver, Colorado. And I was like, oh, that's really strange, because I'm going to be there those dates, but this year. I thought, I'll just see if Abraham Hicks is running a workshop there. And sure enough, she was running a workshop. So I was like, right, tickets for that as well. Do you know what I mean? Went to see Abraham Hicks. And just everything just aligns, do you know what I mean? And I'd written a list of things that I wanted to do before I was 40. So going to New York was one of them. So coming back, my flight stopped in New York for 8 hours. So I could get out, have a quick sort of like wander around New York before getting back on the plane. Got back home and just looked at my list, and I thought, oh, I wonder what's next, and just put it out there. And then a friend rang me and said, oh, do you want to come to Glastonbury Festival with me? I was like, it's on my list, yes.
Vision boards work. I'm getting goosebumps. So I'm just resonating all over when you're talking about this. That's how I got out of my life. I put on a vision board, and next thing you know, my marriage, everything just, it's like a, you know, one of those movies, Inception or something, where you're in a scene and suddenly it just crumbles around and everything's gone. It's like, oh, you know, thanks to my vision board. When you really put that intention out there, universe says, okay, and life starts happening for you. It's wonderful. People, I'm sure, you know, there's so many stories, and people who haven't had that experience yet, it's really exciting to you know, have that faith. And that's where the, you know, I came also from a Christian background, or, you know, but, you know, it's your faith. Jesus, when he would heal people, it wasn't because he did it. He wasn't giving them something that wasn't theirs already. He said, your faith makes you well. Your faith makes your life. Your faith, your manifestation, your energy is what creates your wellness or your unwellness or your, you know, your happiness or your misery. You know, it's within us. And we just, you know, here we are together creating this experience together. So yeah. Congratulations. I think that's really wonderful.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think it's really important, isn't it, you know, in terms of like your thoughts and your words. So any thoughts or ideas that come into your mind, what I've learned is, like, if you say them to a friend, or if you share them, whether it's on something like this or it's on a live or whatever, the universe hears those words because it's vibration and it's energy. And I read a brilliant book last year, I can't remember the lady's name, but the way she put it was like, if you imagine there's a big warehouse in the sky with your name on it, yeah, and everything that you want or desire is in the warehouse. So when you say the words, and when you basically like place an order, in my mind, it's like there's little elves that are gathering the stuff and they're starting to bring it out of the warehouse towards you. It can take a little bit of time, but if at any point you doubt yourself or you stop trusting that it's coming towards you, they're like, oh, she doesn't trust properly, so they put it back in.
That's what spelling is. Spelling. I mean, you know, spelling is you're casting a spell for
exactly
whatever you want. So careful what you say, because the more we get into this new earth energy, the more quickly those things manifest. You know, we don't realize how slow it used to be as compared to now. You know, it's magical. So yeah. So
Yeah,
how do you manage your own energy? How do you keep your vibe up?
so I used to, like, I started off grounding and protecting my energy every day religiously like 10 years ago. And what I found is because I was doing it constantly, it created automatically this stronger wall. So I don't feel as if I need to do that as much as what I used to. So I do meditate. I cleanse my home constantly with sage, and I cleanse myself with sage after I've been out and about in public and like with other people. And I really listen to myself as well. So there are some days, where I'm literally like, I describe it as being on it, where I'm writing and I'm working and I'm fully in this creative zone. And then there are other times where I'm like, I don't feel like, I don't have any energy. I need to sleep. I need to rest, and I think, yeah, just listening to myself
Yeah.
a lot more helps me take care of my energy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I agree with you on that. My old life, the reason why I came out of it is because I hurt myself because I just never stopped.
Yeah.
Never stopped, never sat on the sofa and just chilled out, relaxed. I couldn't. I was just so anxious. But then, having that breakdown forced me. And even after that, but now, like you said, I'm more able to, I think that was a lot of dissociating because of my
Mm.
trauma, which, but now becoming conscious of my energy, we're not made to do that. We're human beings. In these physical bodies, they need sleep, they need rest. They're not meant to be, programmed robots that just don't stop. I mean,
Yeah.
you so
I took myself out for a walk today, and I was telling my dad was laughing because nearby where I live, there's like this massive, beautiful tree. And since I moved here a couple of years ago, there's always been these ladders against it in a chair. So I would go and climb the tree and sit in the tree quite happily. And I went today and someone's taken the ladder down, and I was like, what am I meant to do with the tree? So I just went and I was just hugging this massive tree in this field. And my dad was like, he was just laughing because he was like, what if anyone saw you? I was like, I don't care. I was like, but I could feel the energy, and I felt as if I was giving energy into the tree, but also receiving in order to sort of like ground my energies as well. So
absolutely, I
yeah,
bet that's a very happy tree to be getting all that
yeah,
love from people.
yeah, I hope so.
So what
Bless
inspires you? Who or what inspires you?
So seeing people who are like doing things because that's what they're meant to do, like in terms of their purpose. And when I was younger, and I don't know about you, Christina, but I never really read about many sort of like strong female role models. I mean, we had like Margaret Thatcher in the UK as Prime Minister. Um, but in terms of someone like standing up for themselves, standing their ground. And it's probably only really the last few years that I've come into sort of like, I've been reading various stories about people. So my favourite story is about Molly Brown. Have you heard of that one?
Uh, yeah, I'm gonna have to say no. I mean,
Okay, so
name
Molly,
sounds familiar, but I don't have any context to say yes at all.
yeah, so when I was in Colorado, I visited the Molly Brown Museum, and if you remember the Titanic movie, she was this really larger than life lady who basically made a lot of noise.
That was
And
Kathy Bates.
yes,
Okay.
yes, that was her. And so basically her story goes, she came from an Irish Catholic background. She was really quite poor. Her and her husband got married, and he was mining for silver. And then they were told to stop mining because the price of silver had dropped or whatever. And he went back to his boss and said, I believe there's gold there. So his boss said, well, I can't pay you, but if you want to have a look, you can do. So he found gold exactly where he thought it was going to be. So they became sort of like millionaires, if you like, overnight. And then she had servants in the house, and rather than like putting them to one side, the servants had dinner with the family, and all of her friends are like, why is that? And she's like, because they're people like us. She gave her servants like French and language lessons with the children, because she said, I don't want you being my maid for the next 25 years. You need to better yourself,
Yes.
so you're going to learn a language so you can go and do something else. And then she divorced her husband in a time when it wasn't the thing to do, went off traveling to Egypt on a camel, and then ended up on the Titanic. And basically when the Titanic went down, she was questioning, about the lifeboats and that. gets in a lifeboat, and the only boat which had everyone surviving on it was her boat, because she'd made everyone take turns, and she was like, it's only by us taking turns we're going to keep warm and keep each other alive. She got rescued on this boat, and then she went around saying, right, we need to raise some money for the survivors of the Titanic. And the families who said, oh, we're not paying anything, she wrote their names down on a list and left in the dining room table to shame them into paying some money and donating, because she knew they had money. So by the time they landed in New York, she'd raised like $10,000. She refused to wear a corset, and instead she took up boxing in a shed. And, you know, just hearing stories like that of women who go against the grain or follow their own intuition, really sort of inspire me. So I just found out about a lady as well called Florence Scovel Shinn, who inspired Louise Hay to create everything. And again, you know, she was an artist. She was married for 14 years, got divorced. No one would publish her book, so she self-published it. And then she ended up publishing 3 before her passing. And just stories like that, you know, where it's like, they didn't adhere to what they were told to do. I like things like that.
So many, everybody's inspiring if they're given the encouragement to shine, you know. I mean, you know, we've got a society of people who are promoted based on an agenda, you know, and that's not, I mean, some people are inspiring, but, you know, everybody's really able to do that if they just are supported, you know. So that's what we're doing here, is trying to just, let's put our stuff out there and vibe off each other and create that energy so everybody can align with, I'm empowered, you know, that energy.
Exactly, yes.
So what do you love about yourself?
I love the fact, and I've loved this since I was younger, I can communicate with anyone, do you know what I mean? And I'm very sort of, I'll speak to anybody regardless of like who they are, do you know what I mean? And I love connecting with people. I love speaking with people, you know. And yeah, I find that I'm quite what's the word? Yeah, I feel like I am a people's person. You know, people do like when I sit with people, even if I don't know them, they find themselves just sharing stuff with me as well. So yeah, I love people. I love their stories and hearing their stories as well.
That's beautiful. So what brings you joy?
My children, when they giggle, you know, when the proper giggle, when because there's just no, like, there's nothing about it, there's no judgment, and it's not like, oh, you know, I can't do that or that. Dancing and singing, I love singing. When my kids aren't in the car with me, it's like my radio's full blast, you know, especially This Is Me by The Greatest Showman, and I'll just sing my heart out, do you know what I mean? Yeah, dancing in fields, I love dancing. Yeah, they're probably the top 3 that really sort of like I love doing.
Awesome. So what insights have you gained in the last year?
Wow. That's quite a big one. I think the biggest one for me has definitely been around speaking your truth. When I was in my marriage, I was always told that there was issues with my throat chakra. And when I was doing healing on women especially, there was always issues with the throat chakra. And I was like, why is it always women? And I sort of started to realize that it's because women have been persecuted for so many centuries for speaking their truth and saying, this is who I am, this is my beliefs, you know, this is my truth. That it's sort of really, I suppose it's made me, because I always say that I'm a speak your truth advocate, and someone questioned me on Twitter and they're like, why are you saying that? Doesn't everyone speak their truth? And I'm like, no, they don't. Not everyone says exactly how they feel because they're concerned of the other person's emotional response. So I think that's been a big thing for me, is learning to be able to communicate my truth with others, and knowing that if they have a response or reaction, that it's not my responsibility for that, because I'm standing in my power and I'm standing in my truth. So yeah, so that was quite a big thing. And then I suppose that's really helped me in my line of work, because whatever's sort of come through, I've shared. So like with my channelings, like with I had Princess Diana come through, I've had Abraham Lincoln, and they're telling me stuff about the past. And because I'm speaking my truth and I don't have that, like I'm quite fearless, then I'm like, I'll record it and I put it out there for the world to see and for people to listen to and to get potentially like another perspective on what they're being told.
It's beautiful. I've channeled Malcolm X, but I'm too afraid to put it out there.
Oh, why?
I mean, I think he said pretty much the same. I mean, he's powerful, very powerful being, and I think we need that. We need that to balance it out. So, you know, what's your interpretation or your intuition about what's going on around in the world 2020?
Well, so when I have like on my wall like a 2020 sort of like brainstorm of things that I wanted to do, and in the top left corner I'd written in January, expect the unexpected.
Okay.
Having no idea obviously at the time what that was going to mean. And I was given a lot of information last year through channelings, which I'm just busy typing up. Well, some of it's in my second book and some of it I'm typing up now, which is about sort of the patriarchal system collapsing and bringing in a new earth. So whenever I've sort of read something or heard something, I often just ask upstairs, you know, what's your take on it and what do I need to know? And it does feel like, I think this year especially, it's like anything that's not for the greater good is going. Yeah. So like financial system, any business, and I did this on I think I did a YouTube about this, any business that's built on lies or corruption is going to fold. And there's this, it's like we couldn't continue being in that sort of space. So we're now looking at how do we move forward and create these new space and create a new society without, you know, potential, like without cancers or without stress, without anxiety. You know, I always say, I'm like, we weren't born to feel stressed and anxious. You know, we were born to enjoy this space and to learn lessons and experience. So yeah, so the way that I see it, I suppose, is it is like a play. So I had a dream where like I was sat with Bill Gates and there was the curtains and there was a stage and he was looking at me. He was like, right, you're the director. He was like, you know, you get to choose the main players and, you know, you get to say who you want to exit and everything. And I was like, why am I dreaming about Bill Gates on the stage? But they told me as well after the protests in Trafalgar Square in London recently, I just got really clearly in my mind, right, end of part one. And I was like, but what does that mean? And then I sort of felt this energy shift. We were talking a little bit about it earlier. I felt this energy shift and I was like, for me, I don't feel as if my energy needs to go on what has happened like in the past. My energy now is focusing on creating these new communities and these new societies. So for me, there was this real energy shift between sort of like, that's not your role, Lindsay, you know, even though I can share stuff on social media and use my voice on social media, but that's not where my energy lies. My energy at the minute is around not collecting, but, you know, finding people who also want to create this new society.
I agree. That's why we're doing this. I agree. I've gotten that message everywhere, you know. And I would like to tell the universe, I think it should be a group of women and the, you know, mothers who help this world recover. I think we're gonna, you know.
Yeah, I think that's prophesied somewhere, isn't it? There's a book which says about how it's the Western women who are going to sort of like save the earth, if you like. And it's funny because I've had 3 conversations this week with women I've never met before who all have the same vision as well. So we've all got it. And I think if we're, exactly, it will come if we're all holding that same vision and what we want these communities to look like in society.
Yeah. And the thought that, I mean, this is the way we've treated each other as women, you know, we've got to forgive ourselves and each other. It's been brutal.
Definitely.
It's been
collaborate.
Yeah.
Collaboration is the way forward, and we all work together to do this, and we all speak with each other, and we're
Yeah.
all honest, and it's not based on competition, because it can't be moving forward, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
the acceptance, you know, when we encounter someone who challenges our self to accept what they're saying, or you know, we judge, when we're quick to judge, it's a lack of acceptance of ourselves and a lack of acceptance of them. So if I can accept you and accept myself, then we can be united, you know, united in our individuality, you know, because it's my lack of accepting who I am, or fear of judgment, or whatever, that makes me say, oh well, you're, you know, we are continually projecting, and it's really a lack of acceptance of the other and a lack of acceptance of ourselves. So but that's a lot harder to like truly accept ourselves and the others, you know, because then you just have to be okay with things that you don't resonate with. You know, it's like, if it's, I don't like this about another person, but I'm going to accept it anyway, then, you know, suddenly it just kind of fizzles away and it's no big deal anymore. You know, so.
Exactly, yeah.
But that kind of leads into my next question, which is how do the current events affect you emotionally? Because that's a constant challenge of accept what's happening.
Yeah, so I think because when the whole lockdown sort of started, I'd watched The Fall of the Cabal, which was by a lady called Janet. I think she was a Dutch scientist or something.
Yeah.
And she put together this brilliant presentation. And I just watched it, and it's funny because I wasn't shocked by any of it. I was just like, yeah, that makes sense. I already sort of knew what she was saying without having to sort of really go into it. And then there's been other bits that have come up for me, like in terms of where I found stuff out. So like, for example, with the guy who set up Bernardo's, sometimes, you know, when you don't know why you're being led, but apparently when he'd set up Bernardo's, he'd been taken to court 63 times for trying to kidnap children. So, and taking them against the parents' will to put them in the homes. And then there was something around children being shipped off to Australia and to Canada, you know, all the way up through to the 1970s. So there's stuff that I found out that I was just like, I can't believe that the systems have got away with everything for so long. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I had I did a channeling where there was like 75 children in my house, and they told me they were some of the missing children's souls, and they wanted to come through with messages, you know, for their parents, for their loved ones. So that was really emotional. And what I find is that when it's an emotional channeling, like I have this release or this outpouring afterwards where I just sit and cry. But after I shared that, I thought it doesn't feel right to be sharing all this information about stuff that's going on and leaving it with people. So I asked upstairs what to do, and they said, right, we're going to help you create it. It's only like a 10-minute meditation to help others transmute that negative energy through the heart. So if they're reading stuff, you know, if they're feeling angry or they're feeling fear towards what's been happening, then at least they could listen to this meditation afterwards to transmute that energy, which I was like thankful for. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, and I think again the word acceptance comes in. So when I felt angry, when I felt frustrated, when I felt sad, you know, I've allowed myself to really feel those emotions, and channeling the anger into creative work, rather than sort of like venting, I suppose.
Yeah. No. So what are your go-to strategies for keeping your vibe up?
Definitely saging and smudging, and I suppose what I've found as well is that when you have got to that sort of level of a certain vibration, the people who don't want to be in your vibe anymore just don't come anywhere near you. So it's like they stay their distance. Do you know what I mean? It's like they're there on the edges, and it's like nothing. It's like they can't affect you anymore. That's what I feel. It just gets to that point where they're there, you're aware of them, but they're not entering. I try and get outside every day. You know, I walk on the bare earth with my socks off. What else do I do? I don't tend to drink much water at the minute. I know there's this thing which is like, you know, you need to drink loads of water, but because I'm a bit, I don't know why it is. I don't know whether it's to do with what's in the water, but I don't do that. I use fluoride-free toothpaste. What else do I do? I try and eat it like proper, like fresh fruit and veg. I stopped eating meat 2 years ago, just because it didn't feel right anymore. So I still have dairy, so I'm not, you know, full vegan,
Yeah.
but I try and eat what my body wants as well. So
Yeah.
I don't really eat takeaways or fatty foods necessarily. My diet's changed a lot as my vibrations changed.
I have a video that my partner and I made about spinning the water. I don't know if you know Victor Schauberger. He observed the movement of rivers and water, and he noticed that how it travels and how they're become like vortexes, and that's how the salmon travel upstream. They're not jumping, they're using anti-gravity. But anyway, he's like all about the structure of water, and water is a consciousness. So if we drink water just directly out of our taps that's been traveling at right angles everywhere, you know, the life of the water, the consciousness of the structure is all, you know, you can look up all kinds of YouTube videos. My partner he's really into research, and so he has a lot of links that can be, you know, we made a video. We made a video, and it's very short, and all those links are in there. You just take a kitchen funnel and you spin your water a few times and put a little bit of Celtic sea salt in it to remineralize it. It changes the water completely. It restructures it, and your body can absorb it. It's more healing. It's incredible. All we do is we just take it out of the taps. We live in the Netherlands, and it's not fluoridated. Thankfully, we're very grateful for that. But then once we just restructure it, the difference between that and any other water is amazing. It's
I'll have to try that then.
Yeah, and it doesn't cost anything except for the price of a funnel.
Yeah. No, I will. I'll definitely try, because I've been looking at water filters recently, and I was looking at sort of like whether it's worth investing in them or the best way to sort of like drink more of it. But I'll definitely give that a try. So thank you.
Yeah, I put oils in my water too. I'm a big essential oil fan, and I put lemon in it first thing in the morning, and that helps me to just, you know, clear out. Overnight we detox, you know, and then before breaking my fast, I drink a whole 2 liters of salted spun lemon water. It's just,
wow, that sounds good.
Yeah, it's nothing, but it's wonderful. It's nothing, but it's everything, you know. It's like so simple. But, you know, anyway, so how do you empower others is the next question on my list.
So that's something that I'm currently working on at the minute. So I'm just busy creating a new website and membership, and a new online course, which is going to be around teaching women how to tap into that inner knowing and their intuition. So that's something that I'm busy creating, which is going to be out, I think it's about 6 weeks time. I'm working with a chap who's helping me getting all the content together for it, etc. But yeah, and I think even by, you know, me showing up and doing my Facebook lives and sharing what I'm doing and speaking my truth, that tends to sort of like, people reach out to me, and without me realizing I'm doing it, people reach out and they say, right, I was really inspired by this that you did or that you shared, so now I'm doing it. So I feel as if I'm empowering others by living my truth and living my life on purpose, without having necessarily to teach it as like, I don't know, does that make sense? So there are tools that you need to be able to tap into your intuition and inner knowing, but I feel like by doing the work I'm doing, I'm also empowering others.
Yeah, it's like you're opening up that morphogenetic field, you know,
Definitely.
so that people can just align with it, whether they even contact you or not. You know, it's like it's been done. Now everybody can do it.
Yeah. And I seem to have this effect on people as well, where it's like, even if people come into my energy field and I start working with them, within like 2 or 3 sessions, it's like your life will change, you know, and anything that's not serving you anymore will go. A friend of mine contacted me after, like, I hadn't spoken to him for years, and we just met for a coffee, and literally within 2 weeks he'd moved out, he'd found his own place, and he's just having some poems published. He's wanted to publish his poems for like 15 years or more. And I was like, you know, you can do it here. I sent him the details. I was like, here's a competition. This, I feel like you should enter it. And he's entered it, and now his poems are in an anthology. And I'm just like, do you know what I mean? And it's that sort of magic, because when I want to, like, when I work with people one-to-one as well, it's like I become that cheerleader. I want to see them fulfilling their purpose. So if something comes to my mind, or I see something, then I send it to them, and I'm like, you have to do this. I feel you need to do this. So it's quite awesome.
So what advice do you have for those who are newly awakening?
So there are other people out there going through awakening as well. There are other people who are further ahead on the journey. There are people who are behind you. So the spiritual journey is not the place for comparisonitis. You can't compare your journey to anyone else's. They are all unique. You know, everyone has their own lessons to learn, and everyone will come across different healing modalities or topics or subjects at different times according to what's right for them. So I would say whatever you feel drawn to working with, or whichever healing modality, then go with it. And it might be that that's where you start with, but the ending space might look something a bit different. And I think just having an awareness of these various healing modalities, these topics, these subjects, is really useful. So when they do come into your awareness, you're like, oh, I've heard of that before. Let's go and explore it. Now I'm in that space to explore it.
That's wonderful. And how about the last question? What advice do you have for those in a position to teach others?
So just do it.
Yeah.
That's what we're here to do. If we're here to teach, we have to teach, don't we? But I would just say, like, I'm just asking. I'm like, don't be in a rush to do it. Do you know what I mean? Even though I say just do it, like, you have to be in the right space to be able to hold that space for others as well. So this is a conversation I was having with a friend last week, and I was like, there are times where I'm like, right, I can hold the space, you know, energetically I'm aligned, etc. But then if there's a day where I'm like, actually I'm not feeling it, allowing myself to be honest and say, guys, I don't feel like I can hold that space today for you to be able to teach. And I feel like that sort of has more, it brings more authenticity to your work as well, rather than saying, right, every Monday I'm going to turn up at 6 o'clock. Yeah. If one Monday you're like, oh my days, I just cannot do this. Be honest. Because I think your students would appreciate it more as well.
I agree. I mean, as long as we're always students, you know, we never stop being a student, then that makes us the best teacher, you know.
Yeah. And again, when it comes to the teaching thing, just because someone else is doing something one way doesn't mean that you have to do it the same way. So if you don't like doing video, then don't do video, do audios. You know, if you don't like doing audios, then write a blog. If you don't like writing a blog, whatever, because otherwise you come across a bit sort of like half-heartedly. So choose whichever way resonates with you. And if you want to just do 1 hour workshops, you do that. If you want to do a longer course, you do that. But find your way.
Well, thank you, Lindsay.
You're more than welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely meeting you.
It was lovely meeting you too. So I'm going to do a little outro, and then I'll stop the recording, and then maybe we can just say a little goodbye. So, okay. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us, and thank you for adding to the energy of this great awakening and planet Earth. And thank you to Lindsay for joining us. And one more thing, please tell us how to find you. How do we get access to your content? How do we reach you?
So my website at the minute is Lindsay, just www.lindsaybanks.uk. I'm on YouTube, Lindsay Banks. Where else am I? Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, Lindsay Banks 111.
Awesome. So we'll put those links. You can send me those links, and we'll put them in the bottom of. I'll put it on mine, and you know, we can put it on yours. And then thank you again for joining us, and thank you to everyone for being a part of this wonderful new earth energy, and keep shining your light and be the change that we wish to see in this world. And be sure to subscribe to our channels and get notified of our next interview in this Vibe Tribe series. I'm planning on doing many more of these. So namaste, aloha.